Hi, welcome or welcome back. I'm so happy that we are together whenever and wherever you are tuning in. I am sharing this video as a part of a 90-day series that is about to wrap up here in the next week and a half or so. And it's really been a journey to share my truth or speak my truth and to share my story. And I have been sitting with all the energies and things that it takes to sit down in front of these videos or in front of the camera to share the video. And I hope that if you are curious or exploring how to share your voice or your story, I hope it's the sign you've been waiting for. I hope it encourages you to press record, to press upload, to pick up the guitar, to stand in front of that mic, and to express what needs to be expressed through you. I like to start each video sharing a practice for you to consider in case it can be helpful for you and your journey. And the practice that I wanted to share today is one that keeps me going when I am sitting for long periods of time. And so this was something that I picked up probably the beginning of 2021 when I was working from home um, and running trainings virtually and doing paperwork and sitting at a desk. And what I would do is every hour I would take a 5-minute dance break, put on a song that I was feeling, move around, even if I wasn't able to maybe dance, maybe just to walk or kind of jump. And even though I couldn't get, um, 30 minutes at a time, I was able to do it 5 minutes at a time. And that made it more bearable. It made it more manageable, especially because I'd been pretty, what's the word? Stagnant. I'd been pretty, what's that word when you don't move very much? That word. Uh, I'd been sedentary for most of 2020 because of COVID and sort of all of the habits that shifted and changed. So I liked being able to like mix it up, even if I'd been staring at a screen for a while, to stand up, move around. And so I hope that if you're not able to find longer chunks for physical movement, that maybe you can break it down and maybe it's a couple of minutes. Maybe you're doing some like calf raises while you're sitting. Maybe you're stretching, in between meetings or something. So just for your consideration, I know for me, my body feels so much better when it's moving and grooving throughout the day instead of just one 20-minute workout. So I hope that's something that you might consider. And if not, feel free to leave it here. All right. So, one of the things I wanted to mention, only because it happened right before I started recording, uh, I was driving earlier today from the grocery store to another grocery store, and I felt my left ear warm up. Like I felt warm inside my ear. And I'm like, okay, my right ear does not feel that way. And so I was curious. I was in the car with my mom, and for my mom, who has her own spiritual gifts, which I've mentioned probably a long time ago in some video, early on in this 90 series. But for her, anything on the left side is representative of like a male spirit, and then anything on the right side is representative of a female spirit or the presence of a female spirit. And so, for example, when my twins, um, when he was grieving the loss of someone in his life, I felt an ache in my shoulder, even though I hadn't done anything out of the ordinary. I hadn't slept on the arm. I hadn't, done any different kind of workouts. And so I was sort of curious about that. And I had communicated in my mind, I was just like, oh, like, I wonder who this is. Is this my dad? Because my dad had passed a couple of years before that. And so, um, what happens for me is if it's a yes, the feeling or the sensation goes away. So when I asked, oh, are you my twin's friend? The ache subsided. So I was like, okay. So, um, it was persistent for about 3 or 4 days. And um, I think the second day when I felt it, I was getting ready for my morning yoga practice, my asana practice, my postures. And I had asked, is this you? And would you like to practice with me? So then the ache subsided. I went through the the postures as if I was teaching, um, and cueing, these postures for him as well. And then on the third day, I had a thought because a medium, and a medium is one who channels spirits for those who are in the physical world. Um, for some reason, remembered her saying, um, in a session, you know, your friend has been waiting for you to reach out to a medium because you're probably one of the only people who would. And I had that thought. And so I'm, you know, having this ache. I'm getting ready for my morning asana practice, yoga practice. And I ask if he wants me to reach out to a medium. So the ache went away. I reached out to some friends to see if they had any recommendations, any referrals. I found a couple of people, reached out to one, and it didn't work out. And then found the second person, reached out to her, and I called and left a voicemail. And it was probably the fourth morning of the ache. Um, and I got the phone call in the middle of my yoga postures, my yoga practice. So I pick up the call and I, schedule something with her for a couple of weeks out. And I get off of the phone and the ache went away and the ache didn't come back. Okay. So all that was an experience for me to not that I didn't believe my mom, but it was firsthand experience of what she was telling me. Her experiences have been like. So because of that, I was like, okay, yeah, when it's the left side, I believe that it's a male spirit. And then when it's the right side, I believe it's, female spirit. Okay. So coming back to today, driving and getting the like warmth in my ear, then every time I record one of these videos, or at least for the last uh, 30 days, 40 days, um, I have done what is it called? My pre session routine that I do before I do a Reiki session. So I just sort of hold the space. I receive Reiki, healing energy, universal energy, and then I infuse it into the reading for your well being, for my well being, and for, our ability to, separate and go our own ways. And so as I was doing that before this reading, as I was finishing up, I was like, the left side of my head felt warm. It wasn't just my ear because I have like a earphone in. So the left side of my head was warm, and I was like, hmm, I don't know. It might be the presence of a male spirit. So I share this with a couple of, I guess, bullet points. One, I'm curious if you have any spiritual gifts, sort of how you interpret or what kinds of you know, things are a part of your interpretation of what's happening. Like, do you tune into those sensations? I probably barely mentioned this, but I will say it again here. Do you have a particular clair, Clair? Are you clairvoyant where you like see images? I've heard that people can like kind of as if there's like a movie screen in their mind. They can sort of watch a movie of something that's happening and then share that with someone else as they're tuning in and channeling messages or receiving messages. Clair audience is where you hear things. Maybe you hear voices, you hear words, you hear sounds, and then you share that with someone. Um, so I'm curious, like if you have something like that, or if you have something else, like if you communicate with spirits or um, spirit babies or you can channel, sort of what are some of your signs and symbols that help you. Mine being, the left side is a male presence or male spirit presence, and the right. And then I just try to like ask yes or no questions and see kind of like what I get. I I don't hear voices. I don't hear like spirit talk to me, but I try to tune in to what my intuition tells me. And so the second part of, or the second bullet point is I'm wondering if you have a male spirit who um, you've been thinking about or who's been on your mind. And if there's anything related to like the left ear or sound or maybe like music, I wonder if they are just trying to um, reach out to you in some way through me here. So, just wanting to share that in case it lands for you. And then maybe then just to broadly say, that obviously uh, there's no tangible proof of these things. Um, but I will say, maybe from the story that I shared of my twin's friend, the virtual meeting that I had with a medium later that month, which was about 3 years ago now. Um, the intention of scheduling for me, the intention of scheduling with her was to allow the possibility if that friend wanted to come through. And what I have heard and what I have come to believe is that mediumship is not for those who are living in the physical world. It's really for those who are in energetic form or spiritual form. So those who have transitioned physically into another realm or into another dimension. Um, and I think sometimes because we in the physical have been quote unquote left behind, we want to be able to communicate with a certain person or we want to be able to, receive confirmation about something. And depending maybe on, the relationship that you have with those, you may or may not receive what you're wanting, but you receive what needs to be shared. And so when I showed up to the virtual meeting, my father came through. And I didn't even imagine that he was going to, mostly because I wasn't I wasn't sure I wasn't sure how he was doing after he passed. I didn't know if he was in a great place spiritually and that maybe he was redeeming himself or sort of learning hard lessons. And so I went into that call and she mentioned a father figure and then started to share all of these details that were very obscure that I haven't thought about in decades, let alone talked about, with anybody I knew or that knew the medium, because I'd never met the medium. And so a lot of times that happens to, I guess, to help the person being read to feel like, oh, okay, this person gets it. I mean, like, I didn't tell her, so how would she know? And so that kind of gains trust in the medium. And then she is able to share messages, or they are able to share messages, right? So for me, she was able to share some of these details, like, was there an issue with your father's finger? Like, did something happen? Was it injured? And I was like, huh, let me think about this. And like my dad had been sawing probably like 3 decades ago, and like his finger, onto the saw table, the table saw. And then we had to like, oh, I don't remember. I don't think I went, but he had to go to the hospital and something happened. I don't know all the details because I was so young, but I was like, oh, I hadn't thought about that since it happened, right? Like, and yeah, I didn't tell her. I didn't tell anybody. So that was one of those confirmation details that the medium shared. And then she was like, oh, yeah, like, is your kitchen very narrow? Like it's not open, but it's like long and narrow. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And then he was like, oh, does your mom, have a piece of jade jewelry? And I was like, she used to, but it broke and she didn't get a new one. It kind of like broke her fall when she fell. So then from there, she shared, some of the messages. And I think the main thing that I remember hearing from her or from my dad through her was that he was grateful for how I was taking care of my mom after he passed. Um, and some of it was like encouraging me, like, your mom gets scared, so just help her to feel safe. And I was like, oh, that's a good reminder. And then the other thing that really struck me was that she said, oh, your dad says that you're a wordsmith. And then she was like, well, that's not like the language that he's using, but that's how I'm interpreting what he's like sharing with me. And then she was like, yeah, he wants you to keep writing. And I was like, oh, I never talked to my dad about writing. Like, I never, like, was like, oh, yeah, writing is important to me, or I have to, like, never had those conversations with him. I don't think he ever saw me like writing in my journal. I would just write, by myself or in my own room, away from him. And so to hear it, I think it was exciting because writing has always been important to me, and to sort of hear that message come through from spirit was a big deal. And then v- a long time later, I was talking to someone about this, and he offered, oh, your dad's still with you. And I was like, wait, can you say that again? And he's like, well, he didn't know that you wrote, as a kid, as a teenager, as a young adult, as an adult. But now, or whenever you did that reading, he knew that you read. So that means that he's been with you since he transitioned to be able to know that you write and that it's important to you. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, okay. So I really appreciated that reflection and that feedback because I missed that when I was in the reading. So that was really important to me. And then there's something about like, yeah, your dad um like wants you to like not be alone, like he wants you to find someone, but you're gonna have to leave the house. You can't find someone, they're not gonna just show up at your door, and if they do, they're probably not the best fit for you. And I was like, okay. And I might have gone on a date that year because I hadn't been on a date for a long time, so I was like, oh, interesting, okay. um yeah, so, and if you are curious, my twin's friend did come in. We were wrapping up the session. She's going to go into a tarot read, and I was like, before you do that, is there anyone else showing up? And then she described some of the details of my twin's um, person's loss, and then shared a message for me to share with my twin. And so um, I was able to relay those messages to my twin later, after the reading. So That was the last medium that I'd worked with. I've referred her to some friends. I bought or purchased a reading for my twin if he ever felt comfortable reaching out. And um, yeah, I think it's all possible, even if we can't see it or hear it or taste it, like in the physical, tangible ways. So, um, yeah, I hope that if there is somebody who's on your mind, somebody that you're thinking about, that you have ways to connect with them, um, including like if it's in dreams or intuitively or just talking to them, that if it helps and it supports you, I hope you consider it. I'm going to get ready to go spend some time holiday extravaganzing. So I'm going to catch you later. But thank you so much for witnessing this part of my journey. Thank you for showing up and being here. And I do hope that wherever you are safe and you are healthy and you feel closer to your truest self, to your essence, and that you feel comfortable shining your light in the world. All right. Catch you later. Okay. Bye bye.